where the news comes first, 24 hours a day. This is KFOR-TV, 4 Strong, Oklahoma City.
A wicked scene for witnesses. One tornado after another touching down in western Oklahoma. There is no doubt tonight that severe weather season has begun. Good evening, I'm Linda Cavanaugh.
And I'm Bob Bruce. Tornado season hits with incredible force. At least half a dozen tornadoes touched down, all of them in northwest Oklahoma. You're looking right now at video shot by News Team 4 News Hawk Gary Mitchell. This is just one of the twisters that hit Woodward. Fortunately, very little damage, which is hard to believe when you take a look at the sheer power of one of these things. No matter how many times you see this, it still is an incredible sight. Now, we've got a lot more video to show you, and we want to tell you that Linda just returned just moments ago from that area and has more.
Talked to a lot of the folks there. We've been out to the areas hit, and we talked to the survivors. I have to tell you, after seeing what they saw, it's amazing the tornadoes didn't hurt anyone. But we do have some property damage to tell you about. We're told the storms tore up a barn, damaged several grain bins, downed some trees and some power lines, and tore the roof off a storage shed. Those tornadoes packed winds up to about 100, 125 miles an hour. But again, so far, no serious reports of physical injuries to any of the people around there. The tornadoes touched down about 11 miles north of Woodward County. The damage might have been worse, but after we flew over it in the chopper, you could see that it's primarily just a rural part of that county, not a lot of trees, not a lot of homes or people living there.
Yeah, people in Woodward and Ellis County very, very lucky tonight. There was so little damage. They had several tornadoes in such a short period of time.
Now, Wayne Shattuck tracked that storm for us all afternoon. He joins us in the Storm Center now. Wayne, now, where did it all start?
Well, we really had some severe thunderstorms starting to erupt late this afternoon. Our first severe thunderstorm warning was issued for northern Woodward County at about 4:55, and the first tornado warnings came very shortly thereafter. The first one came at 5:18. 3 tornadoes in Woodward County on the ground northwest of Moreland. And then at about 5:45, we had another report of a tornado on the ground near Fort Supply. Then at 6 p.m., 2 tornadoes on the ground in the Fort Supply area. At 6:03, 2 tornadoes on the ground 10 miles north of Gage. That's in Ellis County. And then finally at 6:22, a tornado reported crossing US 270 west of Fort Supply. A lot of activity, a lot of tornado activity in that part of the state tonight, along with intense lightning and quite a bit of hail. As a matter of fact, hail as large as baseballs at times.
Thank you, Wayne. Those fingers of destruction didn't do much more than tickle the Oklahoma prairie this afternoon, picking up dust and tumbleweeds and spectacular whirlwinds. But what a sight it was. I just got off Chopper 4 about 20 minutes ago after talking with our news hawks around Woodward. Listen to their stories and watch what their home video cameras captured of that storm.
So we went out and started filming it in the front yard, and then I kind of thought, well, I'll see if I can't get closer. And I actually ended up out on the highway with Sheriff Tommy Matthews of Woodward County, and we started filming out there as we watched them and saw as many as 6 tornadoes on the ground.
What'd you think?
Quite honestly, it's the first time I've ever seen a tornado, and I've lived in either the Texas Panhandle or here in northwest Oklahoma all my life, and that's why I wanted to go out and see it when I saw it and get a better look at it. They were not clouds that I thought looked particularly ominous. Kind of a scary situation there for a while.
News hawk Norma Covalt says she jumped in her pickup to get better shots of the storm.
Well, the one tornado was on the ground. It was probably the one that was up around Fort Supply. And then another small one that you could see parts of, and then back behind it, another one that was on the ground.
Boy, what a sight it was. Now, around Fort Supply, that's just north of Woodward, there's a report of damage to a grain bin and a shed. But other than that, Woodward area seems to have survived relatively unscathed.
Devin Skillion was also out surveying some of that damage and talking to the people, and has also just returned. Devin?
It's really odd. As Linda and I were flying over, I think we would have been hard-pressed to find a branch that was out of place. Now, that's not to minimize, because some people did have barns and some grain bins knocked over, but really lucky overall. And the people who shot the video tonight for us, our news hawks out in that part of the state, really sound just about as entertained as they were threatened at all. Take a look at our first piece of video. You're standing in the backyard with your kids, and this is what starts rolling through the neighborhood. Pretty awesome sight there. These are pictures shot by Betty Oldham in Woodward. We are looking north from Woodward, and we can hear Betty talk here, I believe.
Dissipated, and now it has come back again. There's one on the ground over by Moreland, too, the TV says.
Now we move on to the video shot by Roger Ruttman. This also looking north out of Woodward.
Clear down, yeah. That is a big funnel right there, and that's about 18 miles north of us now. TV says. 18 miles north of Woodward, and that's a big one. You can see the debris coming off of it.
And those are the kind of pictures that we saw tonight from our news hawks, as we can see that, and by listening to the way that they talked there this evening, just the fact that there were so many of them coming all at once, they were really taking it very patiently and with a lot of calm. We've got a lot more pictures to show you. We're going to go back and put those together, and we'll be back a little later.
Yeah, we will have much more video a little bit later on. Thank you,
It was quite a show. If you were with us earlier this afternoon, you saw photojournalist Robert Hall and reporter Jenny Simone bring us the first pictures of the storm from Chopper 4. They were right outside Moreland. Jenny's back now and joins us live from the newsroom. Quite an experience, wasn't it, Jenny?
Incredible, that's all I can say, because you're sitting there and you're watching the power of Mother Nature develop right before your eyes. You also feel very, very vulnerable because you're not really sure which way that tornado is going to go, and you want to make sure you can get out of the way in time. It also really just came out of nowhere. You hear people talk about all the time. They're sitting at home, suddenly, out of nowhere, off goes the roof of their building. We had been hovering in that area for about 20 minutes, saw absolutely nothing, then boom, not one, but 2 funnel clouds ripping across the ground. From the chopper, we spotted 2 funnel clouds about 9 miles southeast of Moreland. One of them came and went very quickly. The other, though, we watched develop in just a matter of seconds. You can see it here moving along the horizon. But what was so amazing to me about this tornado is that it stayed on the ground for a long time, for about 30 minutes, at a steady pace and intact. It never seemed to skip along the ground or lose any kind of strength. Fortunately, though, this tornado touched down in a rural area, so from the air, we really couldn't see any kind of serious damage. One man, though, who we talked to, who was wrapping up his day at work, said the tornado looked mean enough to him to send him running for cover.
I really didn't want to take any chances. The sirens started going off, and some of the people were just standing there looking at it, but I didn't want to do that.
You know, in the chopper, I want to make it clear to everybody, we really were very, very safe because we were far enough away from that funnel cloud, about 9 miles, so you really didn't feel like you were in any kind of danger. But the scariest thing I think I witnessed tonight was those lightning storms. There was a bolt that came smack dab right in front of the windshield of the chopper. Scary enough, and I certainly want to say that is proof that when you have storms like this, you don't want to take any kind of chances.
Well, you're exactly right. But you mentioned a fascinating part about all these storms is that many of them were stationary for so long. Had they been over a heavily populated area, there could have been real problems.
Devastating damage, no doubt about that. And the thing that I thought was really incredible, as I mentioned in that video there, it wasn't just that it stayed on the ground a long time, but it was steady. It didn't break up. You didn't see it jump or skip. I mean, it just stuck intact and just moved steady along that horizon.
We had quite a show tonight from Mother Nature. Thanks, Jenny.
The Nerve Center during life-threatening storms, of course, is the Severe Weather Center in Norman. News Team 4's Dan Threlkeld is there. And Dan, tell us, how did all the folks down there go into action during this storm?
Folks here were quite busy just several hours ago here at the National Weather Service office here in Norman, Oklahoma. Meteorologists now are about ready to undergo a shift change, so the new meteorologists are coming in. The ones that have been here for quite a long time just starting to move out the doors. Things have started to settle down here at the National Weather Service office, but that was certainly not the situation just a few hours ago.
He's got severe on those warning area.
Meteorologists here at the National Weather Service were busy tonight. Information from the new NexRad radar was used, along with spotter reports to issue warnings for northwest Oklahoma. Based on what the NexRad showed, a severe thunderstorm warning was first issued at 4:57. The Doppler also indicated circulation near Woodward.
The NexRad showed the storms, first of all, intensify very rapidly, and occasionally we would see weak rotational signatures or circulations within the storms. Now, these circulations were smaller and usually weaker than what we would typically call a mesocyclone that produces the long-track, most devastating tornadoes.
So with a circulation like this, we might see smaller tornadoes. This would be characteristic of a smaller type of tornado?
That's right. We see usually smaller, short-lived tornadoes, and many of them.
And as these storms died, forecasters here began to wait for round 2 as a new batch of Texas storms approached. So the NexRad certainly did work and was very helpful tonight in issuing the warnings that we had across parts of northwestern Oklahoma around 5 o'clock this evening. The shear activity they talked about is air that is approaching and air that is going away from a certain area, and the NEXRAD was able to help identify that. That allowed them to help issue the warnings that we had across northwestern Oklahoma. These were very small tornadoes. In fact, that's how most of the tornadoes are in Oklahoma. More than 2/3 are what we consider weak tornadoes, weak in comparison to the large monsters that do all the damage. And that's certainly what we had a good ways away from the radar site, which is in Norman, Oklahoma. But you could pick up the sheer activity, and that allowed them to help forecast. Now, we talked about those storms in the Texas Panhandle. What we're looking at now is a display of another NEXRAD radar in Frederick, Oklahoma. Not only in Norman, but in Frederick, Oklahoma, in southwest part of the state. You're looking here at the Texas Panhandle. This is another batch of activity that is moving from the west to the east towards folks in western Oklahoma. The good news is the folks here at the Weather Service indicating these storms starting to die out just a little bit. They'll, of course, continue to monitor it, but right now these storms are weakening just a little bit as they approach parts of western Oklahoma. And NEXRAD certainly working not only here in Norman, but also the radar site that we have down in the Frederick area. So NEXRAD was up, and it was working, and it helped to pick out the shear that developed into the tornadoes in northwest Oklahoma. Bob?
Dan, you said small tornadoes. It's pretty hard when you look at that video and think that those winds are whipping around at 100 to 125 miles an hour to really consider them small tornadoes.
That's why I wanted to stress small in comparison to what we call the F3s and the F4s and the very large-scale tornadoes, like the one that hit the Woodward area back in 1947 or the one that hit in the Wichita Falls area. Those are considered the large-scale. These winds up around 100 miles an hour are considered small, but relative to the larger storms that we sometimes get. Bob?
All right, thank you, Dan. The worst tornado in Oklahoma history hit exactly 45 years ago today, and in, of all places, Woodward.
And people there are still shaking their heads over the irony of it all. You'll hear stories from survivors of that killer tornado 4 decades ago. And we've still got more to show you from tonight's Twisters video we just got in. That's next on News Team 4.
Look around America, tell me what you stand.
When we look around, we see people doing their part for America's quality of life. Every day, Walmart customers recycle paper, aluminum, plastic, and automotive batteries in our stores. And every day they buy more and more products with reduced packaging. It's called caring about the world we live in.
Recycle America, don't just throw it all away.
Folks, when I tell you how Smickless satisfies with selection and savings, the best way to prove it is with special Smickless offers, like this. Your choice of the factory program 91 Buick Regal or a 91 Chevy Lumina starting at just $10,995. Now, I'm not talking stripped down or one each. They're loaded with extras, and Smickless has 20 on the lot. Your choice, 91 Regal, 91 Chevy Lumina starting at $10,995. How we satisfy with selection, savings, and service at Smickless Chevrolet Buick GL.
I want to get right back to Devin Skillion again now because you've got some more News Hawk video.
Just got one more piece of video in. This came to us from Kurt Donnelly. Let's take a look at it. This is a little bit like looking at a sonogram, if you will, because this is kind of showing us how these develop. And one of the interesting things about all the video tonight that we've seen, if we piece it all together, we've got a lot of real case studies of just how these tornadoes develop. Dip down, form, dip back up into the clouds, and then reform. In fact, they're having a difficult time tonight deciphering exactly how many tornadoes they had because so many of them were falling apart, reforming, falling apart, reforming. Some said that there were 16, maybe a dozen, maybe 10, maybe one or two fewer than that. But there's one more piece of video to us from Kurt Donnelly, and our thanks to all the News Hawks tonight who worked very diligently, not only in getting out to take those pictures, but in also getting them to us.
And to do it in a safe way.
You bet.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Devin.
They did do a good job, but it brings to mind perhaps the worst tornado in recorded history. It happened on this very same night in the very same area 45 years ago. The killer Twister scored a direct hit on the city of Woodward. It was April 9th, 1949. Now, 104 people were killed. Hundreds of others were injured. 430 homes were destroyed. Damage set at about $7 million. Those are, keep in mind, 1947 dollars, so you can imagine what the damage would have been today. Tonight, we talked to some of the people who lived through that horrible night. 15-4's Doug Schimel has their story.
There wasn't anything left. We couldn't even tell where our house was.
Linda Reed was just 4 years old when her babysitter grabbed her out of bed as the family home was pulled apart.
We blew away, and Bill came to and found me face down in a mud puddle. I don't remember. It was like 2 blocks away, I'm told. And the lightning just led him to me, so it was just a miracle. And he had a broken back. It's a wonder that I even lived because I was unconscious and I was in this mud puddle, but I was unconscious 10 days.
And you missed your next birthday.
Right, my birthday was April 12th, and I was out on April 12th.
Every year since 1947, Linda looks at the calendar each April 9th. This year's anniversary, however, is just a little too eerie.
It is. It is, and I've had recurring nightmares of tornadoes all my life because of it.
We heard this roaring like a train.
The nightmares have come back to life for Roger Ruttman as well. He was 7 in 1947 and lost his grandmother in the destruction.
And it just looked like one big whirlwind. And we come to town and found all of her relatives, and some was gone, and had to drive over house roofs and everything and to get to them.
For Ed Hicks, April 9th, 1992 and April 9th, 1947 are now 2 days that will live in infamy. What did it look like that day?
Some of the bombed out areas I saw while I was in the Air Force in World War II.
Tornadoes can be like war, only without the bombs. And unfortunately, people still get in their way. Doug Schimel, News Team 4.
And another killer tornado struck very close to home just 13 years ago tomorrow. It was Terrible Tuesday, just beyond our borders in Wichita Falls, Texas. Take a look at what was happening.
Anyone in the sound of my voice, there is a tornado on the ground near the Sac Center area in Wichita Falls. Please take cover.
April 10th, 1979. The Weather Service issues warnings all day long. That afternoon, the destruction began.
It appears to be coming into the town, heading towards the Kills Freeway.
Miraculously, many people survived. This woman and her fellow employees found safety in the vault of their bank.
And we knelt on the floor, and we could hear this roaring sound. And then all of a sudden, we just felt like we was going to explode, and our ears needed popping. So we stayed there for a while till everything got quiet. And then we got up, and we looked out, and we just couldn't believe what we saw, because there the cars that were in the parking lot were now in the bank's lobby.
Other survivors will always remember the violence of the storm.
I heard the sound of my voice as the air was pulled from my lungs. The sensations were of being pounded and hit and stabbed. It was violent. It was very, very violent.
At dawn, Wichita Falls looked like a bomb had hit. 46 people were dead, 1,700 injured, 5,000 homes demolished. The twister cut a 1.5 mile wide path of destruction through the town.
And even with the technology that's become available in recent years, sometimes there's still not enough warnings to protect property and lives. Just 1 year ago that a tornado destroyed the school in Oolaga. Across northeastern Oklahoma that day, 3 people were killed, 36 hurt, and 200 homes were destroyed. Let me take you to May 15th, 1990, when a tornado cut a mile-wide path through Stillwater. A 4-year-old boy was killed, 8 people were hurt, and power was cut to most of that city. And the worst tornado damage of 1986 was on May 8th, when at least 2 tornadoes hit Edmond and North Oklahoma City. All of the injuries, thank goodness, at that time were minor, but the damage was incredible. 39 homes destroyed, many more damaged. In all, the storms cost $15 million in total damage. And when we talk about how bad a tornado is, you hear numbers like F1 and F5.
Wayne Shattuck joins us now from the Weather Center to explain just exactly what that means. Wayne?
Well, it is a description of strength based on the Fujita scale. And we'll show you that scale based on a marking of F0 to F5 in speed strength. F0 being anywhere from 40 to 72 miles per hour. F1, 73 to 112 miles per hour. And the tornadoes we had tonight were generally falling in the F0 to F1 category. Now, the 1986 Edmond tornado was in the F2 category. And, of course, the Wichita Falls tornado of 1979 and the Woodward tornado both were in the F5 category. So, as Dan Trelko mentioned earlier, relatively speaking, tonight's tornadoes were in a very weak category.
All right, thank you, Wayne.
Well, that's coming up, and Wayne Shattuck's back in a minute with more on what's happening with that same storm system now.
Stay with us.
Remember when every song on the radio was your favorite? Cool 102 FM. We're making you feel good all over again. All oldies. Cool 102. The music you grew up with is back on Cool 102 FM.
Hello, I'm Charles Boyd. It's absolutely true that at our place, the word deal really means something for you. There's so much competition around, it's only common sense to lower prices. Right now, you can buy a 1991 Chevrolet with very low mileage and plenty of factory warranty remaining. For example,
choose from a great selection of 1991 Chevy Corsica starting as low as $79.88.
Get a great deal now at Boyd Chevrolet Geo, 5000 West Reno.
The 1992 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, setting the luxury standard for over 40 years. Now, for a limited time, you can own a new 1992 Cadillac Sedan DeVille at $5,000 off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And remember, that's with the best options standard on Cadillac. Choose from Oklahoma's largest inventory at 400 North Walker. Bob Moore Cadillac. We will not be undersold. Respectfully, Bob Moore.
Do you know that 3 out of 4 who file a tax return get a refund from the IRS?
Is that right? I didn't know that. It's really great news.
It pays to file now.
Wayne Shattuck has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
Things really developed quickly this afternoon, and now you say there's quite a bit of activity out in the Texas Panhandle.
There is some severe thunderstorm activity out there right now, and the threat of some of that moving into northwestern Oklahoma exists, and because of that, a new severe thunderstorm watch has been issued till 3 o'clock tomorrow morning for northwestern Oklahoma. We'll show you that in a moment. Right now, though, in Oklahoma City, we have mostly cloudy skies and 70 degrees, our temperature reading. Gosh, we're still very, very warm for this time of night. As a matter of fact, 71 degrees is our normal daytime high this time of year. Our humidity is 51%, winds out of the south at 9 miles per hour, the barometric pressure 2986 and steady. I want to show you on radar what we have. Most of the state bone dry right now, but we do have some light shower activity right now in the southwestern part of the state from just east of Vincent. This is Altus right here, south of Hobart, which is there, over to almost to Granfield. These are showing a slow northeastward movement, and just a little bit of activity around Butler in the west central sections of the state. And then, of course, out of the radar range, very intense thunderstorms, some severe, in the central sections of the Texas Panhandle, moving to the northeast. I want to show you satellite review, and you can see the clouds that the thunderstorms erupted under and produced the tornadoes earlier today. Look at these in the northwestern parts of Oklahoma, just exploding. The atmosphere rich with moisture and just triggered off with the heat of the sun today. And out here in the Texas Panhandle, we still have a possibility of some very strong activity. Now, here is this severe thunderstorm watch. It's in effect until 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. It runs from northwestern Oklahoma all the way into north central sections of the state, and that is a severe thunderstorm watch. Our temperature is still very mild. We have readings in the 60s and the 70s over the entire state, and winds remain out of the south-southeast, bringing in lots and lots of moisture from the south. Here's our weather map across the country tonight. We have 2 parallel frontal systems in the central and northern sections of the country. Rain chances still pretty high from the Rio Grande Valley across Oklahoma up to the Ohio Valley, also in the far northwest, and chances for some snow in the northeastern sections of Montana. We'll put the map into motion for the next 24 hours. We have pretty much a zonal flow. The upper-level winds, steering winds, are pulling these surface fronts almost in an west to east fashion, but we still have lots of moisture coming up and some upper-level storms coming along, and that's going to give us another chance of some widely scattered thunderstorms, primarily in the afternoon hours tomorrow. West Texas into Oklahoma, on up into the Great Lakes. Also in the Gulf Coast states, some snow possible in the northwestern Great Lakes area, and up in Montana, and then more rain from Wyoming back to the Pacific coast. Now, for highs tomorrow, we'll see 70 degrees for a high at Lake Tahoe, 77 at both Denver and down at New Orleans. We're going to be wet at New Orleans, and 81 degrees for a high at Augusta, Georgia. Now, for Oklahoma, we're going to wake up to upper 50s, even some low 60s in the eastern part of the state, partly cloudy skies, about a 30% chance of thunderstorms in most sections. And that 30% chance of thunderstorms will continue right through the day. Highs again in the mid-80s just about everywhere for Oklahoma City. Across the board tomorrow, 30% chance of storms, partly cloudy skies, and we will peak out at about 83 degrees with moderate southerly winds. Saturday, another 30% chance of thunderstorms, 79. 20% chance of storms Sunday and Monday, 83 for high Sunday, 84 on Monday. Just partly cloudy on Tuesday and 85 degrees that day.
It's going to be a long night here again tonight.
We're going to continue to watch it. We need to watch these storms in the Texas Panhandle, see if they continue as strong as they are, if they get stronger, or if they get weaker. And again, that, as it stands now, the watch for northwest Oklahoma goes until 3 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Still ahead, a verdict in the Noriega trial, and in vital signs, baby beds being recalled.
And we'll take a look at some more of that video of those tornadoes from northwest Oklahoma tonight. Stay with us.
You would have to drive all over Oklahoma to see as many Jeep Cherokees in one location as we have at Bob Howard Auto Mall. 150 Cherokees in stock, discounts up to 21%. On this new 92 Cherokee, $11,988. Want a Wrangler? We got them. 125 Wranglers on the ground are ready to go. On this new 92 Wrangler for $99.88. Bob Howard means best selection and price. Come now to the Bob Howard Auto Mall, Broadway Extension at Memorial Road.
This is one of the newest fabrics, pearlized vinyl, and it looks and wears beautifully on these sofas by Benchcraft from the Home Furnishings Mall, Evans. Big, comfortable sofas that the couch potato will love, with pillowed arms, reversible cushions, and in your choice of steel or ivory. Either sofa is $349. That's right, only $349 at the mall. And you can have your choice of the rectangular cocktail or end table for $59. No matter what your budget, the best furniture values are at the Home Furnishings Mall, Evans.
Buying a home will probably be the largest single investment you'll make in your lifetime, so you want to be sure and do it right. This free home buyer's guide can really help. You'll find useful information on interest rates, types of mortgages, closing costs, why you should work with a realtor, and lots more. To get your free home buyer's guide, stop by any metro area realtor's office. And to get the very best price and low interest rate on a home,
Make the smart move now. Call a realtor.
Play ball!
And you see...
Gunning pointers for me?
Can I have your ticket?
Programs!
Major League hot dog.
There you go.
Robin.
You sure?
Nolan Ryan.
Thank you.
Love the White Sox, love the Indians, love the Rangers.
Who takes you inside sports like nobody can? Who else are you looking for? They play sports right.
We'd like to thank everyone who came to the ballpark for making the four-strong KXY Major League Weekend a big hit. Thanks, Oklahoma.
The government called Manuel Noriega just another crooked cop, and today, a jury agreed. Tonight, the former dictator of Panama stands convicted of drug racketeering. It took the jury 5 long days to reach that verdict, guilty of 8 out of the 10 federal charges. Noriega now faces up to 120 years in prison. President Bush calls it a major victory against global-scale drug deals.
To drug lords here and around the world, they'll pay a price if they continue to poison the lives of our kids in this country or anywhere else.
Noriega will be sentenced July 10th, but he says he plans to appeal.
More controversy and embarrassment for the House of U.S. Representatives. Today, a grand jury alleged a broad drug conspiracy in the House Post Office. Wendell Magruder, a stamp clerk previously indicted for embezzlement, is now under indictment for selling crack cocaine and other drugs to fellow workers. Magruder is accused of distributing cocaine in exchange for money and favors. The grand jury has expanded its original investigation into embezzlement to one now that involves a broad drug conspiracy. Democratic presidential candidate Jerry Brown facing allegations of drug use at parties when he was governor of California. ABC says Brown held parties in the late 1970s where marijuana and cocaine were taken in large quantities. Campaigning tonight in Pittsburgh, Brown says the story is simply not true, and he says he's considering suing ABC over the report. Police officers who were on Brown's security detail say they found evidence of marijuana and cocaine use at Brown's Los Angeles home. A woman who catered parties at Brown's house says she never saw any drug use at his home. The report did not say that Brown himself used drugs. Paul Tsongas is out for keeps today. He said he will not get back into the presidential race. Tsongas says even his surprisingly strong finish in the New York primary hasn't convinced him to restart his campaign. The Democrat has not endorsed anyone yet, and has not ruled out the possibility of being a vice presidential candidate.
Well, on the surface, this story just doesn't seem to make sense, but here are the facts. Oklahoma has slipped from 47th to 48th in the national rankings for our teacher salaries. Now, keep in mind, that's despite the fact that average teacher salaries in Oklahoma went up more than $1,200 this year, thanks to House Bill 1017. The National Education Association says Oklahoma teachers make an average of just over $25,000 a year. That still puts Oklahoma in 46th place in the amount of money we spend per student, about $3,500 per student. State educators point out that while House Bill 1017 helped Oklahoma teachers, surrounding states are working just as hard or harder than we are to increase teacher salaries.
The legislators that we've talked to out there are as mystified by this as we are. They're talking about having some problems funding 1017 top to bottom. And as far as getting any additional dollars on top of the millions that have already been put into this district, I would doubt it.
And Allen says there's a misconception that House Bill 1017 increased all teachers' salaries. Not so, he says. He says new money has been earmarked only to boost the pay for rookie teachers.
If you're a frequent flyer, start looking forward to lower airfares. American Airlines announced today they're slashing prices. Their plans include cutting first-class fares from between 20 to 50%. Unrestricted coach fares will be cut by at least 38%. American says it hopes to increase the current amount of business travelers. The new airfares will take effect on Monday.
Thousands of baby beds being recalled. And does saccharin really cause cancer? Here's Terry Cook with more in tonight's Vital Signs.
Remember the big scare over saccharin causing cancer? Well, now some researchers at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha say that may only happen in rats. Partially funded by the National Cancer Institute, the study showed saccharin causes bladder cancer in rats by reacting with two proteins in rat urine. Those substances are not found in humans or are found in concentrations so low, the researchers say there's no way that interaction could cause cancer. Well, parents beware tonight. A baby bed manufacturer has recalled one of its products. The beds made by Costco Incorporated are constructed of red or white tubular steel with arched headboards and footboards. The spacing between the arches and the headboard and the footboard and the spacing between the mattress and the arches may allow entrapment of a child's head. The model numbers are T22 and T23. Those are youth options metal toddler beds manufactured since December 1990. And a second warning for parents tonight. The federal government cautions some of those decorative cubes you may have around your home might be a killer. Cubes like this, 16-inch square decorator storage units with hinged lids. Children can be strangled or suffocated if trapped inside. Following the death of a child, cube manufacturers worked with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission to make them safe. As of June 1990, all have completely removable lids which cannot slam shut, but the old hinge type are still causing some problems. Well, did you ever wonder why beer drinkers get beer belly? It's because alcohol inhibits your body's ability to burn fat. That's the finding of some Swiss researchers who report when your body stops using up that fat, it stores itself in the paunch, the thighs, or any other place that you put on weight. So it's not just the calories in alcohol that make it fattening, but the way that alcohol throws off the body's normal disposal of fat in the diet. For Vital Signs tonight, I'm Terry Cook.
And tonight in sports, it's just a plain old green jacket, but by golly, it is a coveted one. It's the world's most famous golf tournament.
We'll check in on the Masters in just a moment.
I'm Bob Barry Jr. with former Olympic marathon champion Joan Benoit Samuelson, who's in Oklahoma City for the upcoming Red Bud Classic. You excited about that?
Sure am.
Good. We'll get to meet her coming up next on News Team 4.
Friday and Saturday at Montgomery Ward, savings on top of savings. Start with all furniture on sale.
Then on top of that, save an extra 10%.
All sofas, all sleepers, all chairs, all lazy boys on sale.
Then on top of that, save an extra 10%.
All electronics and appliances on sale.
Plus on top of that, save an extra 10%.
And don't forget, apparel and fine jewelry is on sale.
On top of that, save an extra 10% too.
Sale prices store-wide.
Plus an extra 10% off on top of that. Nothing tops savings at Montgomery Ward.
Right now.
Now there's a book from Anderson Window Centers that turns windows and patio doors into works of art. For a brilliant composition of sunlight and living space, get brighter home ideas created by Merida, publishers of Better Homes and Gardens. Only at your Anderson Window Center store.
A.T. Lumber Company, Buford White Building Center, Capital City Building Materials, and Bartlett Building Center.
Sometimes parents think the only treatment for a child with emotional problems is hospitalization, but families have alternatives that may be more appropriate and less costly. High Point is a quality provider of care just for children and adolescents. Personalized choices are offered, including acute, residential, and day treatment. Or you can call High Point to discuss other community mental health resources to help you make an informed decision. High Point, when your child needs help or you just need information.
Who is the GM Factory Program Car Headquarters? Bob Moore Pontiac, and not just for Pontiac. Look at these examples. Your choice, a 1991 Chevrolet Corsica, the Chevrolet Beretta, the 91 Buick Skylark, or the Geo Prism from $79.95, just $149 a month. Your choice, $149 a month. Now that's a payment you can afford. How about the 91 Geo Metro, starting at only $109 a month? Where? Your GM Factory Program Car Headquarters. Bob Moore Pontiac on the Northwest Expressway between Rockwell and Council.
As you can imagine, I hear it's not easy to be married to Senior. He's supposed to be in Palm Springs, but forgot about a speech he was supposed to make in Enid today. So his,
He met his commitment.
Yeah.
And he'll be out of here tomorrow. And I'm going to be here for a few weeks and looking forward to it. An American golfer has not won the prestigious Masters since 1987, but after the first day of this year's event, 2 U.S. stars sit atop the leaderboard after sensational rounds, like 7 under 65s. One of the guys that produced that was 41-year-old Lanny Wadkins with the birdie at number 18. This is a hole people have a tough time just parring, and Lanny put it right in there today. 65 for Wadkins. Also at 65, former PGA champion Jeff Sluman. Remember when he won the tournament at Oak Tree in Edmond back in '88? Well, he got a long birdie putt here. And Jeff Sluman also at 65, 7 under par after the first round of the Masters. There are your 2 co-leaders at the Augusta National Club. Davis Love III at 4 under. Freddie Couples, the hottest guy on tour, defending champion Ian Woosnam in at 3 under, 4 shots back, along with the Golden Bear Jack Nicklaus. Greg Norman at -2, Ben Crenshaw even. Former Sooner Andrew McGee at 1 over par, and Arnie came in today with a 75. He's 3 over par. Round 2 of the Masters is tomorrow. And the 89ers open their season tonight. Look at this crowd, almost 15,000 at All Sports Stadium to see the Niners score 3 runs in the very first inning. Rob Maurer doubled high off the left field wall, scoring Bob Brower, but the 89ers blew the 3-0 lead and ended up losing the ball game. Buffalo scored 3 in the 6th and 4 in the 7th. You see the final, they win at 9-7. Dave Clark singled in John Wiener here, and 9-7. Final score, 89ers lose. Game 2 tomorrow night, 7:05 at the ballpark. American League, Texas, what about them? They are 3-0, trying to be 4-0. Scored all of their runs in the second inning tonight. They lead the Mariners. Oakland completed a 3-game sweep of Kansas City. Minnesota beat Milwaukee, and Toronto beat Detroit. Dave Winfield, his first homer as a Blue Jay. New York beat Boston 3-2. Frank Viola, the losing pitcher, and former Sooner Jack Armstrong losing on the mound for Cleveland tonight when Baltimore shut the Indians out. And Chicago leads California 5-2 in the 3rd. In the National League, San Francisco spoiled Atlanta's home debut, winning 11-4. Will Clark had 4 hits. The Astros and Reds are tied 5-5 in the 10th. New York bombed St. Louis, and Montreal got 14 hits in their win against the Buccos. Philadelphia beat Chicago 7-1, and L.A. has a 4-1 third-inning lead against the San Diego Padres. And the annual Redbud Classic will take place this Sunday here in the city. It's the state's biggest running event, and this year's special guest to help kick off the races is Joan Benoit Samuelson, the former Olympic champion in the marathon, who talked to me today while she went through a light workout. You've told us you're pretty selective on your appearances around the country, so why would you pick to come here and endorse the Redbud Classic?
So I've heard many good things about the Redbud Classic, and when you hear good things from other runners, you know it's a good race, because if it's a bad race, the runners don't talk about it. And secondly, this is my first trip to Oklahoma, and everybody says Oklahoma's okay, and I just wanted to make sure. It's very nice.
Joan Benoit won the marathon in 1984 in Los Angeles, and the LA Summer Games produced a truly historic moment for women in sports.
I think every child dreams of becoming an Olympic champion, and fortunately I was given an opportunity and took it, and I think I came around at the right time, because had I been a few years earlier, there wouldn't have been a marathon for me to run. It was the first women's marathon. Some days it seems like it was just yesterday, and some days it seems like it was decades ago.
Joan has been bothered by nagging injuries since her Olympic triumph, and she ran into another problem over a year ago when she found out she has asthma, which has flared up at some most inconvenient times.
Again, I think a lot of it's mental, and if I feel like I'm physically fit, I just go with that and not and don't worry about, you know, this asthmatic condition, because sometimes I don't even notice it.
Joan Benoit Samuelson will try out for the Olympic 10,000-meter team this year. That's 6.2 miles, a little down from the 26-mile marathon. She says it's going to be a big challenge for her because of the asthma. Also, the trials are in New Orleans, where it's very muggy, and the run will take place at 10:30 at night. So she has a lot of obstacles against her, but she's triumphed before.
She looks a bit lighter than when she won the gold medal.
She's tiny, but she is talented on the track.
Can't stop people like that.
You can't.
We'll be back with some more video of those tornadoes.
And we'll check in with our good friend Wayne for a last-minute look at the weather.
The 1992 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, setting the luxury standard for over 40 years. Now, for a limited time, you can own a new 1992 Cadillac Sedan DeVille at $5,000 off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And remember, that's with the best options standard on Cadillac. Choose from Oklahoma's largest inventory at 400 North Walker. Bob Moore Cadillac. We will not be undersold. Respectfully, Bob Moore.
There's a cool, dry breeze blowing down from the Rockies. New Coors Dry. Double chilled to ensure brewer fresh taste and a finish as clean as ice. Then it's kept cold all the way to your store. So it's not just a better drive. This is a better beer. New double chilled Coors Dry. Try it and feel the chill.
Excitement is in the air. It's opening week of 89er baseball at All Sports Stadium. Every game will be action-packed as the 89ers battle the Buffalo Bisons and the Nashville Sounds in the 6-game homestand. Be part of the action at All Sports Stadium opening week beginning Thursday the 9th.
89er baseball. Catch a rising star. 89er baseball.
Hello, Oklahoma, here at Jackie Cooper O's GMC in Yukon, America. We've had the honor of being the #1 GMC truck dealer for the last 4 months, and we've done it with value prices. Just like this 92 GMC Sierra, loaded with equipment, $11,988 or $199 a month. How about program costs? 91 Sierra starting as low as $10,995 or $191 a month. That includes tag, title, and tax. Come see what value pricing is all about. Jackie Cooper O's GMC, Route 66 of Yukon.
It's going to be a warm Friday across Oklahoma and a 30% chance of scattered thunderstorms tomorrow, too, with highs in the 80s all over the state. And once again, until 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for northwestern Oklahoma. We'll be here. We'll keep an eye on it.
Hopefully they won't have a repeat in that same section of Oklahoma of that activity moving up from Texas.
We're hoping.
All right, thanks, Wayne.
We've had some incredible video that you've seen tonight from our news hawk. Let's take a look at some of it once again, and you'll see these storms as they form. Now, all this activity started just after 5 this afternoon, and the crazy thing about it was these tornadoes seemed to stay in the same place, and they stayed stationary for so long. What a sight it was.
And this video shot by Gary Mitchell of Woodward, and a special thank you to all our news hawks out there in the Woodward area that helped us out so much by providing some of the incredible video of the tornadoes that hit that area earlier this evening.
We appreciate all your help, and we're thankful, just as you are, that there was not a lot of property damage and no loss of life. Have a good evening.
You've been watching News Team 4, voted by the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters as the best newscast in Oklahoma.